What's the good word, Josh? Your boy DKB. I'm finally back. Wedding was great. Thank you guys for the well wishes and the congratulations. Plan on trying to put some kind of gift together with all that kind of stuff. All the other quotes from the weddings and everything. So again, greatly appreciated. You guys are awesome. As for today's topic, Damien Woody, once again, right? He's doubling down. He's sharing the same sentiments I'm in, right? I think at this point, I'm one of the few guys on the outside looking in when it comes to remaining, our tackle pick. Our pick at number 10 still being a tackle. A lot of the argument seems to have shifted to find the best weapon for Aaron Rodgers, right? Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison Jr., Roma Dunze, Brock Bowers, right? Those are the top four guys that we feel like we have a shot at one of them, right? For some reason, people feel like Marvin Harrison is slipping because he hasn't done combine stuff. He hasn't done pro days. It's purely just interview and rely on tape, right? He's not falling. Malik Neighbors, Roma Dunze, those are the two unicorns where they can go as high as the, third, fourth, fifth selection. They could fall to us at 10. Realistically, you take a look at what the Jets have going on, right? I take a look at the wide receiver room. Garrett Wilson, Mike Williams, Alan Lazard, contributors from last year in some significant fashion, right? Whether it's snaps or production. Xavier Gipson, Jason Brownlee, Irvin Charles. I feel more secure in that room, right? Mike Williams, Garrett Wilson, they speak for themselves. Aaron Rodgers will, quote unquote, unlock Alan Lazard again to at least make him a serviceable wide receiver, right? But ideally, you want him in probably that fourth role. Xavier Gipson, Jason Brownlee, if one of them take any kind of developmental jump, that's a plus to us. Overall, though, I think that's still a very solid wide receiver core. Do I still want to add to it? Of course, you have to in a draft class like this, where you could still potentially get a starter in the third, fourth, fifth round, even. Offensive line is where things are a little more concerning to me, right? You take a look at left tackle Tyron Smith, left guard John Simpson, center Joe Tippmann, right guard Elijah Vera Tucker, right tackle Morgan Moses. Tackle specifically is where my question marks are. On the interior, I feel good. Do I still want depth? Of course. Still want somebody that can challenge a guy like John Simpson and even AVT if he's not recovering from his injuries in an ideal fashion, right? At the very least, make sure you have a solid insurance policy because it's likely, I don't want to say likely, knock on wood. Let's just say statistically, it's more likely that AVT could probably suffer another injury, right? Tackle those where the concerns are. If Tyron Smith and or Morgan Moses had to miss time today, I don't know anybody that has overwhelming faith in a Carter Warren or a Max Mitchell right now. I do think Carter Warren is a sneaky developmental option for us that maybe takes a larger leap than expected with a healthy offseason. But still, offensive line to me needs to be the pick. Considering Tyron Smith hasn't played a full season since 2015, almost a decade ago. Considering Morgan Moses is dealing with the torn labrum or the shoulder tear, whatever it was, that he just got surgery for this offseason, there's going to be a chance that whoever the main swing tackle or primary backup is, they're going to see at least 4 games worth of starting snaps, right? Also, I didn't know this. Keep in mind from last year, right? Last 2 years, we know how horrendous offensive line injuries have been, but just last year, 11 players played at least 10% of the snaps on our offensive line. Absolutely crazy. So, with Damien Woody, he shared my same sentiments here, right? He said specifically, I'm doubling down. I watched up close and personal. This Jets offensive line over the years has just been a disaster as far as injuries are concerned. And they've definitely upgraded position with the 3 moves they made this offseason, but I'm drafting an offensive lineman, particularly a tackle at 10. When you look at those 2 tackles again, they're both 33. And then he goes into mention, Tyron Smith's injury history, and then of course what's going on with Morgan Moses. To me, Joe Douglas needs to ensure by any means necessary that he has no doubts about this offensive line going into this season, right? A season where we're expecting to bring 10 guys on. even if you feel great about the starters, right? Obviously, each one of those guys, John Simpson is probably the exception to the rule where they've had a consistent elite or above average performance history, right? John Simpson kind of flamed out with the Raiders, had a successful season with the Ravens. I want not only the tackles of the future still there, right? Because let's say best case scenario, we pull 2 to 3 years out of Moses and Tyron Smith. I want the guy that can take over and potentially immediately, right? It just helps that we can give him that push to develop himself more so than being thrown into the fire right away. If Joe Alt is there, if an Olu Fashanu is there, Troy Fautanu, J.C. Latham, let's say you want to take a wild card shot on a Tyler Guyton and a trade back, a Fuaga, it doesn't matter. Left or right side, whoever is best to you, I think needs to be our pick. 100%, right? And there just so happens to be a handful of guys up there at 10 that should be available where you don't even have to lock them into a certain side, right? Fuaga probably going to be great as a right tackle, but you can see the development for him to be a left tackle in the future. J.C. Latham, he's mentioned himself, he wants to prove he could be a left tackle. Should be a solid to great starting right tackle right out of the gate, right? There's a lot of guys here that you could just do so much with, and especially considering the faith that we have in Keith Carter, give him every ample opportunity to either turn his career around, right, change the narrative of how players feel about him, and or his ability to develop key offensive linemen, because even though he does have that negative background, right, when it comes to his players, you still can't argue with the success of what the Titans did during his tenure there. I feel like there's no other choice for us, right? When you look at that wide receiver room, again, you can get a starter potentially in the third, fourth, fifth round. You even look at some of the teams that went out there and excelled, to make the playoffs. And I'm thinking about the Ravens specifically with that wide receiver room. They had no player that topped 1,000 yards, just a lot of solid to great performances. I think that's the floor for the New York Jets with what we have right now, and still have the potential to give Garrett Wilson a long-term running mate. So if nothing else, right, I'm not a pro. I haven't been in the NFL, obviously, right? I don't know all the inner workings of this. I would rely on Damien Woody's word over a lot of people, right? Also, in a grand scheme of things, you can't tell me that, let's take the Bengals, for example, Joe Burrow wouldn't have as much, if not more success with a healthy offensive line than if he had that wide receiver room that he had, minus a T. Higgins, right? I think Tyler Boyd would still be a highly successful receiver over there. I think they could have drafted somebody else to also fill in and help things out. So ultimately, you guys let me know what you think is happening at number 10. Are you going offensive line, or do you think we should try to maximize the weapons around us, and you'll figure out the depth pieces in the third rounds and later? And I'll catch you guys again. Peace.